Okay, we'll begin and open this session of Division 3 on October 3, 2023. So good morning to everybody. For the record, I am Representative Maureen Mooney, the Vice Chair of Division 3 here in House Finance. Our Chairman, Representative Jess Edwards, had a planned absence today, but will be back with us either later this month or early next month, and we look forward to that. So we have a couple of replacements today on the committee to announce. First of all, as I mentioned, Representative Edwards is absent today, and so Representative Jim Kofalt is taking the place of Representative Edwards. And then our clerk, Representative Jerry Stringham, is out today, and so Representative Chuck Grassi will take his place today. The clerk for today will be Representative Weiler, so thank you very much for taking that role. Today's meeting, the work session, has been properly noticed, and here we are live on YouTube and certainly open to the public. We have 7 bills to take up today, and our purpose is to discuss them and then vote on a recommendation for the full House of Finance Committee to take up. And then the full Finance Committee's recommendation will go to the full House. In accordance with House Rule 45, we're entering now the second year of this session. Therefore, our recommendations on the bills can be one of the following: ought to pass with amendment, ITL, or interim study. All of those recommendations, having gone through House Finance, go to the full House. All retained bills have to be out of their committees by November 17th. So we are perfectly ahead of schedule within the time frame there. And I imagine notice soon will come about as to when the full Finance Committee will meet to take up our recommendations, as well as those of Divisions 1 and 2. We don't have to worry about blurbs today. We'll worry about that when we meet as a full Finance Committee, but certainly keep in mind that those will be needed. So if any suit your fancy to write, I'm sure we'd be open to that. Okay, those are my introductory remarks. Anything from the membership before we dive in? All right, we're going to start with House Bill 91. And that is an act relative to privacy obligations of the Department of Health and Human Services. Several of these bills today, we'll go through them, but one of which, this is one, is in House Bill 2. And that appears in sections 79:425 through 79:427 in the final version of House Bill 2. So, House Bill 91, do we have a motion to discuss on House Bill 91? Representative Hole, for a motion.
I would move ITL in that this is already done.
Okay, the motion is ITL. Is there a second? Second of Representative Wallner. On House Bill 91, ITL, again, it does appear in House Bill 2 in the sections I referenced. Any discussion on House Bill 91 motion to ITL? Okay, at that point, we will take the roll whenever the clerk is ready. All right.
Representative Kofal. Yes. Representative Irv.
Yes.
All right, I'll do that. Representative Hole.
Yes.
Representative Wallner.
Yes.
Representative Nordgren.
Yes.
Representative Celersky.
Yes.
Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Representative Mooney.
Yes.
Weiler votes yes. All right, 1, 2, 3. 9 yes, 0 no.
Okay, 9-0. The motion is ITL, House Bill 91. Next, we're going to move to House Bill 282. This is an act relative to including certain children and pregnant women in Medicaid in the Children's Health Insurance program. Just as a reference, the bill has been incorporated in House Bill 2, which was adopted earlier this year, specifically Section 79:412. The sponsor of the bill is here in the room. That's Representative Shapiro. Representative Shapiro, would you like to make any remarks with regards to your bill at this point?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was honored to bring this bill and very pleased to see that it was entered into House Bill 2. This is a bill that will ease eligibility criteria for Medicaid for lawfully residing immigrants who are children or pregnant women. With this being signed into law, we will be joining all the other states in the Northeast and also about 35 out of the 50 states in the country. So I'm very pleased that this was put in the budget, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be ITL'd at this point.
Thank you for those remarks. Any comments or questions there? Thank you very much, Representative. At this point, I'll take a motion on House Bill 282. Representative Hole.
Sure. I move to ITL, House Bill 282.
Okay, ITL on 282. Is there a second? Representative Telersky for a second. Any discussion on an ITL motion? Okay. Mr. Clerk, when you're ready.
Kofall,
Yes.
Erf,
Yes.
Hole,
Yes.
Wallner,
Yes.
Nordgren,
Yes.
Valersky,
Yes.
Grassy,
Yes.
Chairman Mooney.
Yes.
Weiler votes yes. 9-0.
Okay, 9-0, the motion carries on House Bill 282 ITL. Next, we'll move to House Bill 527. That is an act relative to Medicaid reimbursement rates for certain assisted living facilities. One of the sponsors of the bill is in the room, Representative Horgan. So I'd like to give you the courtesy, your choice, if you'd like to address the Division 3 work session at this point.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I just wanted to remind everybody that this is for small size facility, 16 beds or less, requires a makeup of 50% or more of low-income residents, and that the current rate is, I think, $56.88. We're asking for $115 in this, and that the average monthly cost for a resident is roughly $4,500. The current amount doesn't quite get us there, and $115 doesn't pay all the bills, but it definitely eases some of the burden, because from the low income, we're relying on Social Security and whatever income may exist. So it helps considerably, and a raise would be most appreciated. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Representative, for taking the time on your bill. We appreciate that. Representative Telersky.
Thank you. I don't know if this is a question for the chair or the sponsor, but I'm curious if we have any analysis of what this type of home is now going to be receiving under the new budget that was passed and signed into law that raised rates.
Thank you for that, and I'm glad you brought that out. In the House Bill 2 version that we passed, Section 79:239, we set various rates, increasing them. And it's my understanding that a breakdown analysis hasn't been fully done. However, a home such as Representative Horgan is talking about would receive approximately $80 as opposed to the $115 he's asking for, but certainly different from the $56 he's getting. At this point, I'm going to ask Mr. Ripple for the technicalities on what I've said and to fill in any loopholes there that I may have missed.
Sure, yes. So the section in House Bill 2 that you referenced didn't specify a rate, but it did provide a little over $700,000 in fiscal '24 and a little over $1.4 million in fiscal '25 for the purpose of increasing rates to assisted living facilities. I think in the trailer bill that would apply to all assisted living facilities rather than only the ones specified by this bill. And I don't know what daily rate it would bring them to. I think it would be somewhat less than $80 because when I look at the spreadsheet provided by Jim Monahan during the budget session, he was asking for 2.5 million per year to bring rates to $80, and this provides 1.4 million per year when fully implemented. So I would need to look to the department to get the daily rate that this would provide.
Okay, anything further? Then at this point, I would look for a motion on House Bill 527. When the members are ready. Representative Erf.
I'd make a motion to ITL this, and I could speak to my motion.
Okay, a motion's been made to ITL. Is there a second? Representative Hull for a second. Representative Erf.
So, as I understand the process that's ongoing, and I think we're going to hear more about this later this month in the fiscal committee, the rate structure that is being developed by HHS, and he's not here, is he? Is intended to balance the rates across, not just across all these assisted facilities, but across all the Medicaid rates in general. And just bumping up the rate for one particular class of workers who same class works in other environments, but not adjusting them in those other environments wouldn't be appropriate. So I think you'll find that the rates are, as being said here, would increase the rates as described, and furthermore maintain the consistency across all the different rate structures of the Medicaid program that we, I think we allocated $134 million, if I'm not mistaken, to adjust the adjust Medicaid rates pretty much across the board. Thank you.
Further discussion on an ITL motion, House Bill 527. Okay. When the clerk is ready to call the roll.
Representative Kofal.
Yes.
Representative Erf.
Yes.
Representative Hull.
Yes.
Representative Wallner.
Yes.
Representative Nordgren.
Yes.
Representative Tulerski.
Yes.
Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Chairman Mooney.
Yes.
Weiler votes yes, 9-0.
Okay, 9-0, a motion of ITL passes on House Bill 527. And thank you again, Representative.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, next, House Bill 565. That's an act relative to expanding Medicaid to include certain postpartum health care services. That bill has been absorbed in House Bill 2 that we passed earlier this year, specifically Section 79:421. At this point, I would entertain a motion on House Bill 565. Representative Hull.
Sure. I move ITL.
ITL on 565, House Bill. Is there a second? Second, Representative Wallner. Any discussion? Okay, when the clerk is ready, please call the roll.
Representative Kofal.
Yes.
Representative Erf.
Yes.
Representative Hull.
Yes.
Representative Wallner.
Yes.
Representative Nordgren.
Yes.
Representative Tulerski.
Yes.
Representative Stringham.
Grassi,
Grassi. Hadn't written that in yet, sorry. Representative Grassi.
Yes.
Weiler votes yes. Chairman Mooney,
Yes.
9-0.
Okay, 9-0, motion carries of ITL on House Bill 565. Next, we move to House Bill 614. This is an act making an appropriation to the Department of Health and Human Services to fund the Merrimack, New Hampshire Kidney Cancer Incidence Phase 3 feasibility study. This bill also has been included in House Bill 2 that we passed earlier this year, specifically in Section 79:429. And being from Merrimack, and that's the town I represent, we are extremely grateful not only to House Finance, but the full House for incorporating this very important Phase 3 study into the budget. And we're looking forward to having that take place over time. With that, would anyone like to make a motion on House Bill 614? Representative Hole for a motion.
Sure. I move ITL.
ITL on House Bill 614. Is there a second? Second by Representative Erf. Any discussion? All right. When the clerk is ready, call the roll.
ITL on House Bill 614. Representative Kofal,
Yes.
Representative Erf,
Yes.
Representative Hole,
Yes.
Representative Wallner,
Yes.
Representative Nordgren,
She stepped out.
she's gone. Representative Telersky,
Yes.
Representative Grassi,
Yes.
Weiler votes yes. Chairman Mooney,
Yes.
8-0.
Okay, 8-0, the ITL motion passes on House Bill 614. Moving on now to Senate Bill 263. Representative Wallner.
I'll move ought to pass.
Okay, an ought to pass motion on Senate Bill 263. Is there a second? Representative Telersky for a second. This is an act extending the New Hampshire Granite Advantage Healthcare Program and reestablishing the commission to evaluate the effectiveness and future of the New Hampshire Granite Advantage Healthcare Program. Representative Wallner, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes. By making an ought to pass motion and putting this bill as ought to pass, it would make Medicaid expansion a permanent, as opposed to what's in the budget at this point.
Who made the second? Telersky. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Representative Hole.
Thank you, Representative Wallner. I hear the comment, but for a program of this size, a reevaluation at the 7-year mark, I think is where we settled in the budget, is a reasonable decision, and I can't support the ought to pass because of that.
Thank you. Just to add that this bill is not fully incorporated into the budget, but it is, as you say, partially with the 7-year extension, and that appears in section of House Bill 279:405. Okay, the motion is ought to pass on Senate Bill 263. Any further discussion? Okay, when the clerk is ready.
Representative Kofal,
No.
Representative Erf,
No.
Representative Hull,
No.
Representative Wallner, Representative Nordgren,
Yes.
Representative Telersky,
Yes.
Representative Grassi,
Yes.
Weiler votes no. Chairman Mooney,
No.
5-4.
5-4, the ought to pass motion fails as a recommendation to the full Finance Committee on Senate Bill 263. Is there an alternative motion at this point? Representative Erf?
I'd move ITL.
Okay, ITL with a second of Representative Hole. Any discussion on an ITL motion, Senate Bill 263? All right. I would imagine the discussion would be very similar to the previous motion, is my guess. So when the clerk is ready to call the roll.
I believe it was Whole and Earth on the motion.
It was actually Earth
Earth and
that made the
Whole.
motion and Whole that seconded.
All right. Thank you. Trying to catch up here.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Representative
If-
Whole.
if I may, before we call the roll, just something to note. Our federal government is now $100,000 in debt per person, and we're counting on them to fund a portion of this program, and the current debt is not sustainable. So when we start making promises to our citizens based on commitments from the federal government and it doesn't look like they're going to sustain it, we've got to be careful.
Okay, thank you.
On the motion of ITL, Representative Kofal,
Yes.
Representative Earth,
Yes.
Representative Whole,
Yes.
Representative Wallner, Representative Nordgren,
No.
Representative Telersky,
No.
Representative Grassi,
No.
Weiler votes yes. Chairman Mooney,
Yes.
5-4 on ITL.
Okay. Vote being 5-4 on ITL, that motion carries on Senate Bill 263. And again, all of these recommendations go to the full Finance Committee for further discussion and recommendation. Lastly, and we're breezing right through, so this has been great. This is very good. Lastly, Senate Bill 239, and that is an act relative to the use of harm reduction services to treat alcohol and other substance misuse. We recently had a work session on that earlier in the year, and also just recently. Well, actually, it was in June, so mid-year. I know we have Representative Shapiro. Were you interested in speaking at this point on the bill? Okay, at this point, I'll recognize Representative Shapiro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a bill that came through Health and Human Services Committee that incorporates harm reduction into the current statutes. There was a great deal of support for it in our committee, and I think in general, but there have been contentious questions about how to define harm reduction because some people have been concerned about other things being added in the future that we don't even know about, or I think specifically about safe injection sites, which there is not a consensus in New Hampshire about including. So I think that is where the sticking point in this bill comes. I assumed that we were going to have a continued session today, which is why I came, but other people who were involved in that are not here. I'm probably not the best person to talk about this because I'm not that picky about the definition that we use. I would have supported this bill with the original definition or any of the other definitions that have been mentioned. So I would support an ought to pass on this bill.
Thank you for that. Any further follow-up? Representative Wallner.
Thank you. So the Health and Human Services Committee passed this bill and it came to finance, presumably to look at the financial ramifications of it. But the Health and Human Services Committee actually felt the bill was in good shape and ready to come to the floor and ready to be passed.
I really should have looked to see what the vote was in our committee. So if somebody could do that, that would be helpful. But it wouldn't be here if we didn't pass it. And I think there was fairly broad consensus, not complete consensus, but fairly broad consensus that the bill was in good shape. Maybe Representative Kofal could speak further.
I have it.
Thank you for that. And also, looking at the May 12th, 2023 House calendar, it looks like the bill came out of committee without recommendation. Representative Kofalt.
Thank you. So I sit on Health and Human Services as well, and I think I'll say I believe that there was consensus as to the need for some kind of harm reduction legislation, and it's something that we need to look at. The concern that some of us on the committee had to do with the definition of harm reduction. I was concerned about that. Another committee member and I drew up a floor amendment which passed, which further clarified the definition of harm reduction. And we passed the floor amendment as a House, and then we passed the bill with the floor amendment. Having said that, I have spoken to several members of the committee who have subsequently expressed concern, who like myself voted for the bill at that time, have subsequently raised concerns relative to the definition of harm reduction and what it might encompass and how that is being used in other states in particular and around the world. So, you know, I guess I'll speak for myself in saying that I think that this bill addresses some very important concerns. Having said that, I think that considerable further discussion is required to narrow and clarify that definition of harm reduction, because right now, despite our efforts to define it more clearly, it seems like it is still not clearly defined as it needs to be.
Representative Hole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having in my past worked at a drug and alcohol rehab for 2 years, this is a real issue, and I fully understand it, but I'm not sure the legislation that we're looking at right now actually will address some of the core issues that need to be addressed. And terms like harm reduction that Representative Kofalt just mentioned are vague. There are some other things that likewise would be problematic if the bill went forward as is. There are things that I think are valuable, like some of the test strips and other things. So maybe it's worth holding on and studying this. I don't know if that is an option.
That would be an interim study motion.
I would be willing to make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion made for interim study on Senate Bill 239 with a second by Representative Kofalt. Any discussion now on the motion? Representative Telersky.
I don't necessarily have a discussion on the motion. I know that we had just pulled up the docket. Do we know it passed the House, the first committee when it came through the House, and to then bring it to Finance? I'm just curious what the vote was on that day. I know it was close, but I don't know if Representative Kofalt has it.
Have that, or I could look it up too.
Sorry.
Whoever has it the quickest.
Sure. So the First Amendment was adoption of the committee amendment at 249-127. There was a subsequent floor amendment at 359-18. But as Representative Kofalt said, some others have since looked at this and realized there's more work to be done.
Sorry, can you just clarify, what was the ought to pass as amended vote on the House floor?
That wasn't a roll call. That was a voice vote.
Oh, it was voice vote. Thank
Voice
you. That
vote.
answers my
The
question.
roll calls were only on the adoption of
I
the
appreciate that.
amendments.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Shapiro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I said before, I was not someone who was so particular about the definition. And the reason for that is because I feel that there would be many other guardrails along the way before any other activities were actually legitimized and implemented. So, for example, safe injection sites, which some states use, and there seems to be quite a bit of opposition to in New Hampshire. I think in order for something like that to be implemented, there would have to be funding, there would have to be various kinds of permissions, both locally and by the state. So I think with the definition of harm reduction as is, there are many guardrails for putting into effect or not putting into effect various harm reduction activities. So I would urge people to vote ought to pass.
Thank you. Representative Hole?
As I mentioned before, having worked in this field a little bit, I'm not sure dealing with the mental health issues that lead people to start abusing drugs and or alcohol and or other substances is going to be addressed by safe injection sites.
Representative Wallner?
Well, I find myself in the same place I am often on this committee, is that it feels like these new concerns about this piece of legislation all deal with policy. And the policy committee has done its work and has sent it to us. And we have not looked at the finances of it. I mean, that's not the reason we are going to continue studying it. We're studying it because of policy reasons. And I feel like the Health and Human Services Committee did its work. They passed this to us on the policy. They wanted us to look at the finances, which, again, we're digging into the policy and not into the finances. So for that reason, I'm going to vote against the interim study. Or whatever it is we do in the off year.
Interim study is the motion.
Right, which it brings up a point. It's my understanding from the rules, unlike a retained motion, the interim study motion goes to the full house. The retained motion in year one does not. Year two, interim study does. Any further discussion on an interim study motion, Senate Bill 239? All right, I'd ask the clerk to call the roll when ready.
The motion is interim study. Representative Kofal.
Yes.
Representative Erf.
Yes.
Representative Hole.
Yes.
Representative Wallner.
No.
Representative Nordgren.
No.
Representative Telersky.
No.
Representative Grassi.
No.
Weiler votes yes. Chairman Mooney.
Yes,
5-4, interim study.
okay, 5-4, the motion carries. So Senate Bill 239 is an interim study recommendation to the full Finance Committee. That's the next step here in the process. Okay, that concludes the 7 bills we have published publicly for us to take up today. Any further business from the members of the committee? Thank you so much. Thank you to our substitute clerk and our 2 substitute members. Appreciate all of the time. Thank you, Representative, for coming, and Representative Horrigan as well. Thank you all. We'll close this session on Division 3.
39, you're done.